Hiya guys, let's talk about grounds. So in artwork, when I say grounds, I might mean foregrounds, middle ground, or background. So to make an artwork feel like you really have a three-dimensional space, you need all of those elements to put them together. So first of all, background is going to be in the very back of your picture. If you're thinking about landscapes, maybe there's mountains in the sky far, far in the background. And sometimes things that are far away are a little bit blurry, so that gives us a clue that it's in the background. Your middle ground is the area that's between the very, very front thing in the picture and then the background. So if it's a landscape, again, that would be like maybe some rolling hills or maybe a small house or some flowers, something like that that's in the middle, but it's not the closest thing to the camera or the front of the picture. And then your foreground is always in the front. That's your very, very closest thing. So in a landscape, maybe there's some sprigs of grass that you can just barely see that are super close to the camera. Or maybe there is a person, maybe, right in the very, very front, and it's in front of everything else. So like I was saying, you need all those things. How do you accomplish this and make it actually look like there is a middle ground, a background, and a foreground? Well, first you're going to need to know a few techniques. So things that are very far away, things that will be in the background and the middle ground maybe, they are smaller than things that are in the foreground. So your foreground is usually going to be the biggest part, the part that is the most clear and focused. So your background needs to have smaller things. So if you have a tree in the very front in the foreground, then you have the same tree, not like that's possible, but if you had the same tree that was further away, it would need to be smaller. And then if it was behind that one, it'd need to be even smaller. So size is an important way to make it look like it's actually in the background. Another way to push things to the back of your picture is to make the colors a little different. And by different, I mean lighter. Things that are far away are much lighter than things that are close up. If you ever look outside and you can see the mountains far away, you'll notice they're usually a very light blue tone, even though you know up close they don't look light blue. It's just because when they're farther away, they do look lighter. So in your picture, if you want something to look really close, then you need to make it really bright and vibrant, the most bright of your picture. Also, another way is, like we were talking about earlier, I mentioned something can be blurry if it's far away. So the thing that is closest needs to have the most detail. If you're doing a picture of a person that's in your foreground, that person in the foreground needs to be the brightest and the clearest and the biggest. If there are other people in the background, an easy way to make them look like they're in the background is not really detail their faces or their clothing. Kind of just give them the vague shape of a person. That way you know they're obviously not that close because you can't really see their details. In real life, if you were up in the top of a building and you were looking down at people, you're not going to be able to see all their features because they're so far away. So keep that in mind as well. Are there any others? I don't think so. Wrong. I almost forgot the most important one, and I noticed it when I was editing, so I popped back in here so I can tell you. Another super important way to show things that are closer is overlapping. So if something's really close to you, it should be on top of anything that happens to be behind it. So if you are in the very front and there's a bunch of people in the background, you need to make sure those people look like they're behind you by kind of cutting off parts of their body behind you. That's another one. Sorry for forgetting it. So let's take a look at a photo of me in the classroom for a better example. So here's my classroom. Now, here I am, bam, in the background. See how small I am that far away? Now, bam, here I am in the middle ground, a little bit bigger. And then, bam, another middle ground because I'm even bigger but still not in the very front. And shabang, here I am in the foreground, right up front. So here is how we are going to make our project that shows middle ground, foreground, and background. So you'll need a plain sheet of paper. You can use lined paper, although of course regular printer paper always looks nice. First step is we have to fold this bad boy into 3 pieces, and that's not exactly easy to get it perfectly lined up. I do suggest trying to use a ruler. So for my cutting mat, I'm using a centimeters ruler. I'll show you how to use an inches ruler in a minute. So if I measure this, I lay it out, and I can see that it's about 28 inches. And since I need it to be in 3 parts, I would have to divide 20 by 3. That's pretty hard to do. So I'm going to voice over this part because when I watched this over, it was probably the most confusing thing I've ever said in my life. So just in quick to explain what I'm saying is the paper is 28 centimeters and that is not divisible evenly by 3. So if you pop that into a calculator, it ends up coming out to 9.333333, which is 9 1/3. So I am going to eyeball where 9 1/3 is on this side of the paper. Unfortunately, you usually only have a half markings, so that doesn't really help. And then on the other side, I'm also going to mark where I think 9 1/3 is. So hopefully this will end up being even on both sides. I have inches on the other side. So a piece of printer paper is 11 inches, also not divisible by 3, unfortunately. Hi, it's VoiceOver Miss Dot again. I'm going over some more math that is way too complicated for this project because we're just trying to fold our paper into 3 pieces. So, like I said before, 11 is not divisible by 3, so we have to do a little math. If you put it in your calculator, you're going to get 3.66666666, which is 3 2/3. So you also have to eyeball this one. You don't have third measurements on a ruler. So I do that from both sides. So now I need to fold my paper. I'm going to just get rid of this mat. You won't be needing your ruler anymore. Okay, so I'm going to fold on my little lines that I made. They're probably going to be pretty close. Okay, so fold and make sure your edges line up down here so it's a nice clean fold. Okay. And yes, it looks like my lines are almost perfectly the same, even though one side is inches and one side was centimeters. Okay, so this side is folded. I need to actually flip this over to do the other part of the fold. I'm going to just fold it on over. I do have the lines, but I'm going to just eyeball this one. Okay, use your back of your thumbnail to help smooth out your creases. And voila, you've got a folded sheet of paper. Should be folded like this. So when you close it, it's kind of like a Z. Can you see that? There we go, like a Z. All right, so first step is we need to practice, or I know we just did the first step, duh. Second step is using another sheet of paper, so we're just going to set that to the side. I'm going to grab a fresh sheet of paper and do a nice little sketch that has a background, a middle ground, and a foreground. So I think for my background, I'm just going to go with the classic mountains, so I'm going to do a little quick sketch. We'll put some snow. Some clouds, maybe in the sun, I don't know, we'll see. All right, there's my background. Now for the foreground, what do I want to have? Maybe I'll have a little cabin. This will be a little log cabin. And here's the little roof. It's the side of the cabin. And I know that you can see the mountains through it, but this is just a sketch. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of giving me an idea. Then maybe this turns into a little rolling hill. So let's see, what do I want to put over here? Maybe there's a little bench. Bench. Okay, there's a bench, and then in my foreground, I think I'm going to have some flowers. And remember I said that you to make the things closer, bigger? So these flowers are huge. You know they're not big compared to that house. So that makes these look like they're much closer just by making them bigger. Maybe we'll have some blade of grass here just sticking up. Okay, this will be where the bottom of my paper is. Give them a leaf. I don't know why they're all on the same side. That wouldn't happen in nature. What are you thinking? Okay. So here's kind of a basic idea. I'm going to hold this to the side because I will need it while I'm doing my artwork. Okay, back to this guy. Right now I have it so the opening is on the left. I'm going to draw my foreground on this page. Just the foreground, nothing else. So I'm going to do my daisies. Doop, 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 doop. It doesn't have to be exactly like the drawing. You're just using that as kind of quick reference. And for mine, I'm going to do a little bottom because I don't want my whole thing to fall apart. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I'm going to have this be my bottom. Okay, here's some grass. That doesn't really look like grass, but okay. Pew, 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 pew. Give it its leaves. Some more grass back here. Okay, there's my foreground. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now we're going to grab a handy pair of scissors and we're going to cut them out. And it's very important how you cut this out. So open up your paper and you're going to cut all the way down your line. until you get to your foreground. You do not want to cut these apart. They need to stay together. You'll see why. So I'm going to cut all the way down this line. Just till I get to the bottom of the foreground. And just for time's sake, I'm not going to cut this grass out perfectly, although for yours, I really hope you will. It makes it look much, much better. This will just be a little quicker. I doubt you want to watch me cut every single blade of grass. Okay, so there's what we have. You can throw away this extra piece. You don't need it. Okay, here's what we have. Also, I should have mentioned before you cut it, go ahead and color it, because after you've cut things out, it's very hard to color on teeny tiny little pieces. So color it and then cut it. All right, next step is I need to do my middle ground, which in my picture is the little cabin and the little bench. So first, I'm going to fold this back up so I know that this is the page I need to be drawing on. If I open it and tried to draw on this page, then it wouldn't work. Okay, so I'll fold it, and now I know this is where I need to draw. So I can just open it back up, get it out of my way. And don't be trying to draw perfectly around this. Just draw it as if the only part is that foreground. So I'm going to do my cabin. Let's put my mountain there. Or I guess it's a hill. Here's my cabin. It needs a window. Why didn't I add a window? Okay, anyway. Here's my little cabin. I'll put my little bench over here. Oh, that's way taller than the picture. Oh well, it'll be fine. There we go. I feel like it needs something like a tree. That's what it needs. I don't know why somebody would have a tree in front of their front door, but anyway. Maybe I'll add another mountain here, just kind of the faint outline on maybe some tall grass. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut out, first I guess I should open it. You're going to cut out this line all the way to where your middle ground starts. Be careful not to cut these panels apart. If you do, your whole thing is going to fall. So, just like before, I'm not going to cut this perfectly for the sake of time. Remember, color this first before you cut. And then okay. Now here's that, and all I have to do is fold this, and shabang shaboom, now I have a foreground and middle ground. Lastly, of course, is going to be your background. So I'll fold it, and I know that's where I need to do my drawing, so I can get that out of the way. And in my background, I'm supposed to have some mountains. So let's do a mountain. Here's another mountain. I don't have as much room on this as I did on my sketch, but that's okay. We're going to make it work. Here's some clouds. I'm going to put the sun this side because I feel daring. Pew, pew, pew. Maybe there's a couple birds. Pew. All right. Now, look at that. You've got yourself a foreground, a midground, and a background, and it looks really cool. And an interesting way that you can add dimension. This is just if you're wanting to do a little extra stuff for fun. Take some of your scrap paper, cut out a little strip, like this. Do a zigzag fold, like an accordion fold. So you fold one way, and then you flip it and fold the other way, and then you fold the other way. Do that all the way down your paper. It doesn't have to be perfect, it really won't matter at all. Okay, and it looks like this. I'm only going to use half of this one, so I'm going to just slice it right here. If you want to do this part, you're going to need some glue. Let me grab my handy dandy glue stick. Put a little bit of glue on the very end of one side, and a little bit on the other. I'm just going to stick this little piece underneath my middle ground, so that way it kind of pushes it up. And that way you have like this cool shadow, and it makes it actually feel like it's further away. And now I'm going to do the same thing for my foreground. A little bit of glue, and then put a little bit of glue here. And you do not have to do this step. This is just if you're wanting to do a little bit extra for fun. Stick it underneath there, smush it down, and then voila! It gives it a really interesting little bit of visual elements. Oh no, time to go! Just kidding. Anyway, so here's what you get. And I think it looks really interesting, especially if you hold it up, because then it's sticking together and it has different layers. Anyway, there's our project. Ta-da! Please don't forget to submit all of your project pictures, okay?